call the meeting to order. Hi, Sophie. All right. Public discussion of any items not on the agenda? No. All right. Consideration of the meeting minutes, September 4th.
I'll move approval.
Second?
Second.
Okay. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. All right, discussion of the 2026 Public Art Matching Grant Program. So since we've had a strategic plan, a new one adopted, we'll just kind of review any changes to be made, changing sentiments about it.
Just to clarify, are you talking about the matching grant program or the strategic?
Sorry, Public Art Matching Grant Program for 2026, but in relation to the
The
new,
new strategic
yeah,
plan.
yeah.
One thing I wanted to kind of mention was, is anybody familiar with the micro grants dinner that the Des Moines Arts Festival does?
Heard, but am not
I
familiar.
think it's like a springboard for the arts kind of formats. And it is like a ticketed dinner, but they, in the fall, so they're about to have it in a couple weeks. They kind of narrow things down and they have people present about the grants that they want. And then the people at the dinner actually vote. And I know that one of the things is to try to kind of get more community involvement. And I wondered if it might be too soon to pull it off for 2026, but if this is a format that we could look into for this sort of thing going forward, and if it could be a way to like get the community involved in kind of what things are happening and where grant money is going, we'd have to change the format a little bit since it would not be a ticketed dinner, but it's something to consider. I can head up bringing that to everyone. You want to hear more? I do not currently have a presentation. That's what I'm just saying. It's like, would you want me to make a presentation?
Are you going to fill it out with anything not on the agenda or your business? Yeah.
Well, my hope with this agenda item was, really just to highlight the recent kind of new strategic plan and all the priorities that are outlined in there. So I think now's the time to decide and discuss what changes you want, whether they're smaller tweaks or, bigger changes like Steph suggested. So we can alter timelines if we have to. We can completely overhaul programs. We can make small changes, whatever you kind of think. But I thought this would be, I wanted to start that conversation early just to get an idea what people are thinking and make sure it's aligned with what our current priorities are.
So I'm wondering if today we could kind of see if it needs to do a little bit of kind of alignment stuff. But then I'm really curious about how the process would work. But I'm curious, but I'm moving off the board, or the committee. So I mean, really, it's for others to be curious about that. I'm intrigued, though. Hi, Anita.
Glad you put that on mic.
It's for the public record, Anita. Hello.
We know all about this.
I see you've got some things highlighted. I didn't see anything that really changed so much that we needed to change the guidelines, but happy to hear what people think. Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering if, and again, it's not really necessarily tweaking the guidelines, but if there was a way, or if we wanted to, like we've got a couple of emphasis, like on a 2D kind of project, or there's a lot happening with like pop-up or exhibitions, if we wanted to kind of make sure, I don't want to say like, oh, special preference given to, but if there was a way to work in that as well. somehow to say, maybe somebody wants to put on an exhibition. You already have the artwork; it's already there, but maybe you need, again, the funds to mat the work, or you need some hanging installation hardware or something like that. But to just maybe make sure that's an option or could be an option with the grant.
If those items are spelled out in the key actions, it makes sense to give them a higher criteria rating or a higher potential rating via the criteria.
And then I was kind of wondering if that wanted to, if we wanted to, again, change the criteria or add extra points, or something like that, But
I'm curious, and I'm sorry if this was changed or anything, but we have only been doing this like sort of with a single criteria, right? Like, we don't have individuals and entities, like it's just single. We don't have two. And I'm wondering what people think about that, like to have, because there might be an artist applying for an exhibition at PS1, but then PS1 might also need, something of value or Arts Iowa City or other organizations. And I'm just wondering after, I know the Public Art Advisory Committee, some of the things that they might have come up with or identified that we might be able to be better partners if we did something like that to help different organizations and groups versus smaller groups or individuals. I know that the Iowa Arts Council has those two streams, and I didn't know if we wanted to deal with that because we did have some issues last year when the people lost funding and grants and needed to understandably change their grants. But yeah, that would be a situation where maybe we could even step up or I don't know. It's just something to consider and think about.
Can I ask how competitive it was last year? Like, how many applied? How many were granted? Do we know?
We do know that. I was not here for it. Does anyone recall?
I feel like we had probably 15 to 20
There were a lot.
kind of applicants, and then
We
we've got,
funded what, 5? Is that what was listed?
I think
Seven, yeah.
so like there is more need than what there is to give.
Yeah, so that might be why we don't want to, just to keep it all together. But it is something to.
Well, and I think that goes hand in hand of like how much gets allotted to the public art matching grant in and of itself. I mean, that's obviously not for this funding cycle, but of thinking about, how does that change? How would the structure change the funding? What is allotted to it?
I just think the applications have gotten so much better, and I think you just did such a great job in helping us kind of making it much more sound in structure and application process. And, it's just a lot easier now than it used to be. Because we used to get grants and it was like, I want $3,000 in art materials. Well, okay, me too.
Also, timeline-wise, when was the last time you guys reviewed these guidelines?
So we do each year. I don't think it was last year that we made significant changes. I would say the year prior we did a lot of work on like the application and some tweaks on the clarifications on the guidelines. There may have been some. I apologize, I was on maternity leave last cycle, so I don't have a good recollection. We may have made some small changes, but I don't think anything too global, right?
No, I feel like it's been, and I'm looking at you, Julie. It's been fairly consistent for the last bit. Again, some small tweaks, and then I feel like at some point over the COVID era was when the rubric was put into place.
Yeah, I think it's just had tweaks since we did the rubric, but it's become, I think we probably the most applicants we'd had in a while. You know, typically it's a handful that don't get funded each time. I think we had a few more last time, but yeah, I think the matrix finally works. We've tweaked it several times to align it with the goals. So I think that has improved it quite a bit.
If I might add from an outside perspective, it looks pretty tight. I'm on a couple of scoring committees at the state level, and if I had this rubric, my job would be a lot easier for those grant applications.
I'm just going to shout out to the Iowa Arts Council. That's kind of where we based it on. There's a former employee who put it together, but shout out to the Iowa Arts Council for.
It has very nice transparency, I think, for anybody that's looking at why they might not have received a certain score or something too, which I think is good for us to have. I like the idea that you brought up, I'm catching this, of micro grants. I think that would be an interesting concept to maybe explore separate from this, just because I think, and there would be a lot to work out with that too, because if you're doing ticketing or something like that, does the community have access to it because of cost restrictions or something else, which would get into different things. And then currently we're using this rubric and evaluating the projects to determine if they're meeting this criteria or something. And if we have it's kind of open to the community. Are we using the same rubric? What are we? All kinds of different guidelines. But I like the idea and I would like to explore it further.
I mean, maybe it shouldn't necessarily be coupled with this, but it's something we could use funds, like a small fund for maybe in 2027, and could be something we discuss after we've gone through this process. I have no.
So for future budget?
Yeah, but it'd be nice to discuss shortly after we've kind of gone through this to see if there's maybe an offer that we can make going forward that could kind of supplement this, but also become kind of community involved.
I think budget-wise, we don't really have the money to kind of pull into, I mean, maybe a little bit, but not.
For the record, the Des Moines Arts Festival Micro Grant Dinner awards $500.
Oh.
So.
But, I mean, this does get at perhaps our impact area number 2, artist workforce and local creative economy. Sometimes you don't need too much, but a little more, perhaps less than what our guidelines say for the public art matching grant to do what they need to do. But again, that is sort of increasing visibility and growing the diversity of applicants, project types, maybe locations. But I think that could certainly play well with our strategic plan. But it is kind of like, well, our budget's set this time, but maybe for.
Might I suggest a two-step where you're using your rubric to get down to maybe if you're having a bunch of applications to get it down to 10 and then use the community aspect to get it down to the ones that you're going to fund?
Now I'm imagining a city survey every time for these micro grants or something besides a dinner. But yeah. All right, so.
Steph, can you talk a little bit about what you envision the difference would be between like the micro grants and these, and like the nature of projects that would fund micro grants versus our current program?
Well, I think it's more that it can become an event that you try to draw the community into, more so than it's
Oh, I see.
a different type of project.
Yeah.
And so it really would become like an event.
A way
that
of
we
engagement
advertise
more
for.
so.
And then also like I participated several years ago in the Des Moines Art Festival's Micro Grant Dinner, and they gave us a very like the Pachacucha presentation style. So it was a really strict kind of presentation style. They narrowed it down to 5 presenters. And so, yeah, like it kind of moved along during the evening.
But didn't people pay to be there?
Correct. And that's where we'd have to look at.
Because that's a fundraising, I mean, those are, PS1 used to have micro grant soups, and like everyone would come, they would take half the money and make soup, and then the other half of the money would go into a pot that then people would present their idea, and people would vote on who was going to receive the micro grant. And the amount was, half of the $5 that everyone paid to have their soup. It was fun, but it was a fund. Well, they weren't using it potentially, though I have seen them used as fundraisers. They weren't fundraising, they were just having this micro soup.
I wonder if it might be something that we do like in a collaboration with like the downtown Iowa City Arts District sort of thing or something else, because I think if we'd have to do like, if you're doing this with like in collaboration with restaurants or other things, you might have to do like calls for proposals. I think that would get messier with like the city being involved in that versus how that would work out and funding and everything else. It might be easier for like a nonprofit to do something like this.
What I think what you guys are talking about, to me, the parallel from like my economic development hat would be like an entrepreneurial pitch contest is kind of what it sounds like. Like
Yeah.
entrepreneurs come, pitch their idea, there's voting, at the end someone gets $500 to apply towards their business. And something like that for an art project, I think we could pull it together and that could certainly work. It would just be a matter of determining, I think, like what are your ultimate goals around the project, if it was a particular geographic area or not, or a type of project. I think something like that is, I don't know.
So, if you don't mind me asking, with the Des Moines Arts Festival micro grant, is this one of those cases where their scale and scope of funding is our matching grant is their micro fund or micro grant, or is a micro grant, does it have, in terms of like artist circles, like it means under a certain amount, or because I'm just thinking of like if you call it a micro grant versus the matching grant, like what is the difference, or how could it distinguish itself between, I'm just asking if it has a particular kind of connotation.
I mean, for me, it's, you don't have to submit a budget. It's just money
Okay.
that like goes in the pot.
Okay.
Is how I think of that designation. So like when you say a match program, that's definitely like
Right,
a formal
right.
budget and you're like justifying. And this is, much more like a pitch for whatever
Okay.
the amount is.
Okay,
But I
then
like the idea of like it being community facing and trying to kind of get the community involved in hearing what projects are being presented.
Okay, because I'm wondering, like, if there was sort of the entrepreneurial pitch where it was a little bit of a, what does the committee, is there a type of project or a geographical location kind of thing as being something, or conversely, as far as the public kind of hearing about the art projects, I'm wondering if that kind of component could go into the grant program as it is. Like, hey, would you want to come and talk about your project? Or if that just sounds like a nightmare as an artist of like,
To us as a committee?
Well, or as a public event kind of thing.
Oh.
Like, here's what I got going on. Here's what I got funded for. I don't
No, it's, well, we artists do that all the time.
But do they want it here for this grant? What do you think, Anita?
I don't know. I don't think that's a bad idea to, but I would think who would host it.
Sure,
I mean, it'd be, that could be a very nice event. But that's not a micro, that's just sort of a,
Right.
it could be nice, if a news reporter wanted to do a report on all the people who received grants. Like those are really nice things of letting again, sharing information with the public and letting the people know how important these grants are to the artists. That there's no way I could have done this without the help of this organization. Like, that gratitude. I don't know if we could go fishing for that, but but I do think, it is nice. Like, I would love to see some of these pieces, and some of them you can. I mean, that's the whole point of the public art, is that something happens, and I think predominantly it happens in Iowa City, that we can see, this art is open to us. Maybe we need to be cognizant of making sure they let people know that, they've been funded through the city, and but like I said, I mean, if I was a journalist, I'd be like, that's a good story to talk about that. Yeah, I'm trying to think of which, some of these have been really beneficial. So the Iowa Art Field, that's the garden, right? Is that the Dye Garden? No,
I think it's
something
the
else.
upcoming festival, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
This one is doing
okay,
like
yeah.
this month,
Yeah,
next
and
month.
the mural happened. So, these are really great projects, I think.
I do know that the Iowa Arts Council does ask that you put logos for National Endowment of the Arts and the Iowa Arts Council on any kind of physical material that goes with the project that's been funded. Do we have anything like that associated with this?
We don't currently ask that, no. I would want to get communications input on just like putting our logo out there for people to use. I mean, so I don't know.
I'm even wondering if it could just be like asking, like, if you put it out there on social media that you received a grant, can you put the verbiage with your social media post?
But that should go
but-
through the city.
But yes.
And they should determine if that's something they want, and that's something we could definitely add. Because I think that visibility does matter. So many artists, and I think that's something that we've done a better job at, is letting people know. Because it's not really broadcast, this you have to go on the government site. So hopefully you find it when you're, looking to pay your license or your property tax. Which is usually what or you're looking for classes for your kids or something like, it's not a space I usually go to a lot,
Yeah, historically we haven't really played much of a role or any in like helping to promote these projects. They just kind of are occurring and then the organization is promoting them.
Well, yeah, the Iowa Arts Council doesn't promote the things they fund, but they do ask for, a small line to say,
Yeah.
just to thank them. And it's about creating awareness about,
But it's definitely worked into the language of the grant. I can't remember if it's in the guidelines when you apply or if it's when you're kind of filling out the paperwork going forward. But that awareness is like there several
Yeah.
times in the process. Like
but they don't check on you. I mean,
no,
it's
no,
not
no, no.
like
But
it's
like as in, we could possibly try to
Mimic.
work that verbiage in
Right.
if that is of interest going forward. Yeah.
And it is more beneficial and people really like it.
Yeah.
So it sounds like maybe idea of microgrant or things might be for the next budget round. But then more money can be doled out for grants too at that point. I had a not random question on the guidelines, and it's more of just trying to think about being as clear as possible. It's under the eligible matching funds. When you say commodities/supplies, I'm assuming that just means like you can match the cost of commodities/supplies.
Eligible matching funds.
Sorry, under the eligible matching
Like,
funds.
that would maybe mean like inventory could count, like your own inventory could count towards a match.
Okay. I was just kind of like,
Or supplies you purchased, yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
That's what I assumed, but I had one of those like, I don't know. I'm not an artist, so maybe it's something different than what I was thinking, But I'm wondering if that language could just be clarified a little bit.
Okay.
And it's more to just be as helpful as possible more than anything really missing. Anybody else have thoughts and feelings about this? I mean, I do, but other things on the... Okay, then I will like... Okay, so then again, and this is obviously when we've got the full set of guidelines and frequently asked questions part of the agenda, under the are there any project components I should consider including in my proposal? I'm wondering if these, based on the strategic plan, if we wanted to adjust those at all in terms of, again, things I seem to be focusing on, is like we talked about the 2D kind of project or exhibition kinds of things, or we can leave them as is. Again, I guess I ask just to be more like, are there specific components we want to kind of bring in from the strategic plan, or no?
Oh, anybody feeling?
Do you have history on these four components? Were those from a prior strategic plan?
My impression is that they're more from the prior strategic plan, but I think it was also, I'm looking at you again, Julie, based on some these would be kind of, how can we more broadly define public art to try to get different kinds of projects?
I remember we had lots of discussion about it, but I don't remember what the impetus was for starting that discussion.
Some of it was inherited language, and it had been the desire to get more performance art, the desire to move a little bit, that it's not just always murals or other things, so that it did let people understand, that this, we're not defining what art is or public art regarding what they want to do, so, as long as it's open and it's for the public and it's beneficial, that's sort of, but that it could be functional. It could be, somebody might want, they want a bench and they want to design it, or bike racks, or, and if they get the proper permission of where that's located, they have a reasonable maintenance plan or plan of how long will it be there, who's taking care of it. Those are a lot of criteria that, concerns me. It's not like I did this thing and now, you can't just leave it there. But and just that it could be ephemera. It doesn't have to be, or unexpected. It could be temporary. It doesn't have to be, again, like I said, like a mural or permanence. And so it's really just trying to spark people to understand that if they wanted to do, we have had people do poetry readings and different, very finite, very temporary things. So I think that's why that's there.
Yeah.
But we had, we had talked about that had come from the previous strategic plan and so now we're on the other one. And so, I think it's a good question of, does this still serve the current strategic plan, or does something need to be tweaked?
I thought we had that language specifically in the rubric at one point. Does it incorporate these things? And I don't see that now.
It says
Which I
it's
think
not
we-
scored
Yeah,
specifically in that section, although you will not be scored, so I doubt it shows
But
up in the
I think
rubric.
we used to have it.
Yeah, we used to,
Okay.
and then it seemed to function like bonus points. maybe,
Yeah.
And then it was like,
So
let's just,
maybe, I don't know that, I guess we're not, I don't know if it's.
It used to elevate those.
Yeah,
And so somebody would have
exactly.
this sort of a tag in to try to get that, and it's like, that doesn't make sense.
what it was for, yeah.
Well, so then, do we need to incorporate this in the language in here in the same way then? Because we're not, looking for that in the same way that we used to be either. Not that we don't want to encourage this kind of application or project as well, but I don't know that we need to highlight it in the same way that we are in this.
Maybe this language is a little more too directive. The committee is interested in funding a diverse mix of project types which incorporate one or more of the following. Instead, we could say, the committee's interested in funding a diverse mix of project types
Which could include or
could
something.
include the
yeah.
following, rather than, because that does sound a little prescriptive, you're right.
Which is not limited to,
No,
but
it's
could
not what it's
include or
intended
something.
for, it's just-
some kind of language, yeah.
I probably wrote it.
Well, now I'm kind of wondering if it just needs, like, it just doesn't need the definitions. It just needs, again, like,
Oh, you mean functional
just sort of
art.
like, well, I want to, just functional art, unexpected art. And it's like,
That's just to try to spark,
yeah.
just trying to get people thinking. Like, oh, I've always wanted, like, oh, that would be a
Right.
cool thing. Like, I want to build a bench and then I want to have poets come and read to the people sitting on the bench.
Or if
You
we're
grow
having these
just-
things, maybe just include some of the more kind of
I'm gonna
standard,
move benches.
could also include two-dimensional or murals or things like that, some other kind of descriptions as well. And maybe,
Material based, I don't.
yeah, something that, so we're kind of touching on, it could be any or all of these things and it's not limited to, because the way it's worded right now, we're kind of saying like, this is what we're looking for, which isn't what we're doing
Right,
anymore.
yeah.
But we also want to encourage people that this could be something, it could be all these things, but. could
Yeah,
be
I
other
can
things as
incorporate that into the types of projects that are eligible, if that makes
well.
sense.
Yeah, perfect.
Yep, no problem.
Well, and does that whole section go away then, or does that become the key actions from the strategic plan?
I was just about to
That
ask.
ties back
Yeah.
to the initial question about how to prioritize those. That's what you're looking for.
I mean, even looking at like identify underserved neighborhoods, is there a way to kind of
Oh, that's
maybe make that
excellent.
suggestion like, work some of that language from the plan into the call.
And that does fit the sort of that statement, that we are interested in funding things that, are a little bit more underserved or that aren't always on the beat, like the expected path of life.
Well, I'm wondering if this section could maybe stay and then it's just a little bit more tied into, these are some of our priorities in the current strategic plan. Maybe you should consider them.
Yeah, instead
kind
of
of a-
saying, again, instead of being so directive, but
Yeah.
this is,
Or
good
just kind-
components and you might want to consider that.
Then if we're looking at projects, are we kind of prioritizing that in our rubric as well? If we're looking at the strategic plan, like if you are submitting something that is in this specific location or something else, are we going to give?
Well, I think do we want that natural? Because it has to be, the merit has to be there to begin with. You don't want to just send add art to.
But if it's, we're looking at two projects and then someone else is proposing a space that is,
It would be-
meeting
it
that.
could-
And
it
then,
could be
so
the
we're
defining
deciding.
factor.
Yeah. So I think if we're incorporating that, we want to be clear in the rubric that that's what the intention is and that's what we're looking for.
So to add a line in the rubric saying support, supporting the mission, the strategic mission will reflect favorably.
I mean, we could have something, that's just an item in the rubric that, is just, we're also looking for projects that are meeting these initiatives in our strategic plan. And, if it's more in line with those things, it will be given a higher score or something.
I mean, it is in section 2, project details and description, D.
Oh, strategic plan.
project and description are exemplary and clearly advance the mission, vision, and goals laid out in the Public Art Strategic Plan and Iowa City Public Art Management Plan.
Already
So
in there.
if we define what those are in the application,
Or have a link to it or something.
So the
that
ones
really
you should consider in your proposal would be the strategic plan.
yeah.
That makes a lot of sense, and it's pretty clear, and I'm glad it's already in the rubric.
already in there.
Well, and then I think you could have one of the, like, when we do the, there's room for comments and things like on our score sheets, then it's kind of like, oh, this really, I mean, maybe that's something that's just kind of the general committee of, oh, this really seems to advance or would be really good with our strategic plan. So it could happen a little organically. It's already there, but then I think there is that kind of subjective ability to like, wow, this really meets it, comments it will. The committee.
While we're in that section, I think section 2, item E of the rubric feels like that may be able to go away. It talks about being aligned with the Public Art Advisory Committee's definition of public art, and I feel as though the other rubric items define what we believe is public art enough, that this one seems a little out of place.
So removing E.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it seems like it's duplicating.
Yeah, it's pretty redundant.
I am looking at line item I. And I wonder if we talk about wanting to grow our partnerships in the strategic plan, if there's any verbiage that could maybe emphasize that a little bit more. We have to scroll to compare the two. So it's not.
So would you put that in like the frequently asked questions kind of area or the kind of overview?
I'm just wondering if any of the language in the actual like rubric
Okay.
could maybe like hold the projects to any of those, but I think it actually fits. Like as I ask the question and read it through. Does anybody see an opportunity there? That's, I guess, what I'm asking. I mean, even if on the rubric we define it as local collaborative partnership, might align more closely with our strategic goals plan. Instead of just collaborative partnership, but like emphasize we're looking for local community partnerships.
Or
Is that
Iowa
already
City?
there in, well,
Or Johnson County, or what?
question?
Right.
I would think it'd be the city, but, I mean, don't we define where the projects have to go?
Because we've never funded anything outside of Iowa City. I mean, some things go outside, but the events have always been here.
Well,
So it's already like weeded out, is kind of what you're saying, yeah.
Right.
ish, but then I'm kind of wondering, like, I'm trying to imagine, what if there is like a North Liberty or Coralville nonprofit that
Yeah.
an artist is partnering with, but then maybe it's to, if part of the project is in Iowa City, but it's to draw, attention to, and they're like, it's still a nice feel-good project, but,
I think our funding
But
says
you're
it
right.
has to be within the city
Right.
limit. I mean, I don't know. if
Oh, yeah.
it
Oh, no.
Specifically says that, but yeah.
But artists could be collaborating that don't live in Iowa City. Is that what you're
Right.
saying?
or also with, a local, a local partnership could be, does it mean that something from Coralville or North Liberty is not included in that because it is Iowa City funds,
I would say the answer is yes.
Oh, sorry.
So then, perhaps demonstrate a demonstration of collaborative, like, partnership, Iowa City-based partnerships? Is that
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand what we are doing in the strategic plan and if that then gets highlighted here. But I feel like that language is not necessarily, as I read through 3,
okay?
I mean, I think it might be really restrictive to try to just make that point.
Yeah, because we have a lot of, or like agencies that collaborate with like a national for their funding source, and then they're using that as their match or something too. So I think if we could say that it has to be local or something, that would limit a little in there. And they are occurring within, the city limits or anything else, but.
That is stated clearly.
So maybe keep it loose and see if somebody grossly violates.
They'll be
Any-
dinged
anything
on
they
the
will be-
rubric.
So, any other comments, observations? Rachel, do you have comments, observations for us?
Well, let me just run through my notes and make sure I captured everything. So it sounded like there, for like a micro granting, voting, or pitch component, we do not want to pursue anything like that this year. Is that accurate? We'll include in the grant agreement language that asks them to acknowledge the city's financial participation as they promote their projects. I'll clarify the commodities and supplies as a eligible matching fund item. We are gonna kind of incorporate the functional and expected type of project language into just the eligible projects language. And then instead we will highlight our current strategic plan priorities, link to that in the rubric. I can highlight that in my presentation, but really shift the emphasis to that. And then I think that's all I had. Did I miss something?
Strike E from the rubric.
Yes.
The definition of public art.
Yep, I have that as well.
Do we want to just make a note to put the discussion about the microgrants into a later agenda, like after
like a
we've gone
summer.
through this and have that conversation?
I can do that, definitely. Okay, simple changes, but good conversation. I appreciate it. And like I said, I just wanted to give you an opportunity with the new strategic plan to think about the grant program. So
No, thank you. That seems logical, to do all the work of making a strategic plan and then operate off of the old seems really not
Tie it all
beneficial.
together.
But now I'm like, ooh, excitement for FY27, perhaps. Good stuff coming. All right. Staff updates. How are you feeling?
Are you okay? What's going on?
yeah, I'm doing
How are you,
okay.
Rachel?
Doing great. I just had one staff update. So I mentioned at our last one that I've been working with the Senior Center on exhibition gallery type program to elevate what they have. I wasn't able to get that onto this agenda, which I had hoped, but it will certainly be on next month's agenda. And the Senior Center just launched a call for artists for an Afrofuturistic art display in their galleries, kicking off in Black History Month in January, extending into February, along with an Afrofuturistic fashion show. I will send this call to all of you so you can help push it out to the community. But they're just curating works from the local community that are focused on that topic. Visions of Tomorrow, Afrofuturistic Iowa City. And that will kind of be maybe the kickoff of their. They have an existing gallery space, but it's underutilized and maybe not many people know about it. And so this is going to really highlight that with a big community-centered event. They have pitched a public art component to me about that, so I wanted to bring that to you, which we will in November. And then along with that, we're working on guidelines to really build out a robust program for how artists in the future will be able to show their work in this exhibition space. So I think it hits on a lot of our different priorities and values. So I'm really excited about it, but I just want to kind of give you that heads up since they're to work on their timeline for the first show, which kicks off in January for Black History Month. The Senior Center had to get that going. So that's why that call already went out. But, our role in it with helping to elevate that gallery space and then possibly the public art project, if you're interested, will come a little bit later. So something to look forward to.
That's exciting.
Yes, it is.
And that's definitely a space and a community that would be wonderful to start, promoting and interacting with. They do such good work.
Yeah, and establishing like more regular gallery hours so people know what's happening, opening reception, that kind of thing. So we're working through all those details and hope to bring that to you in November. That's, I think, all I have for staff updates unless there's questions about anything. The Arts Alliance feasibility study is still moving along. The next steering committee meeting is in a couple of weeks, so we haven't seen any sort of recommendations or anything like that from the consultant yet. That will be kind of what this next steering committee meeting is focused on.
Great.
Julia, yeah.
No staff updates. All right, Julie, this is sad. Jen, this is sad. All right. Old or new business? It's the usual answer. Okay. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right. Somebody going to second?
Second.
All right. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.